everybody. So today is Saturday. That means another episode of Jane Austen Month. This movie that we're talking about today is not really a family movie, it doesn't really qualify as much for a family movie night, but it technically is PG-13, so it technically qualifies because that's my only real qualification. But I can't imagine anybody that is I can say this could be interesting for high school. This could be interesting for high school kids. They'd like it, so maybe this would be going for Teen Movie Month to have that I do every June. But anyway, it's kind of a weird choice for a family movie night segment, but it is good for Jane Austen Month segment. We're talking about Metropolitan. This movie came out in 1990. It's directed by Whit Stilman and written by Whit Stilman. And it's not like a direct adaptation of Jane Austen, but it is an homage to Jane Austen, particularly Mansfield Park. Mansfield Park is a novel that's basically about these teens, these young adults that are bored. And so they put on this play, and it's a very scandalous play. And it becomes kind of this scandalous experience for all of them. And people fall in love, and people fall out of love, and things happen, and all this stuff. And what this movie does is it kind of takes that same idea of these 1990 elite socialites, these young adults that are bored and kind of hanging around at all these parties. They don't necessarily put on a play, but they talk a lot, and they have a lot of airs about them. And it's similar in the sense of you have this group of teenagers that are bored, and and they do pay lots of homages to. There's lots of discussion of Jane Austen within the text of within the script. There's lots of talk of Jane Austen in the script. Particularly, there's a character, Audrey, who loves Jane Austen, and this character Tom, who thinks that is really lame. And when she says that my favorite is Mansfield Park, then he gets all huffy and everything about it, even though he outright admits he's never read them, but they aren't sophisticated enough for him, or whatever it might be. He's above Jane Austen. And of course, then she's really offended by that. And then they talk back and forth, and she loves Mansfield Park, and he can't believe, he's like, that's the worst one, even though he fully admits that he's never read them. In fact, he says that his opinion is more valid because it's not that he's only not read them, but he's read the criticism of them. He's read the dissertations and things like that about it. And that's, like, in his eyes, or he claims that that's more legit than actually reading them, which I think is like a very telling of what you would see now if it was this same story in 2024, that I just read about it on social media. I didn't actually read the book, and that somehow that's more valid in some people's eyes. Oh, I saw an essay on it on YouTube, therefore I'm an expert all of a sudden. And that can definitely happen and these days. And so I think that holds up quite well. It's quite funny. And just the banter between all of these young adults. It was nominated for best screenplay that year because it is so sharp and it is so witty. And there's this young man named Rick, who's kind of the villain. He's the bad guy that once Tom starts to realize maybe he actually does feel something for Audrey, then he goes and kind of storms the Hamptons to find her, and storms the Hamptons house then he goes and storms the Hamptons house that Rick lives in, and they have this big confrontation and everything. And so you do get to, this is not a movie with like a ton of story. And if you're somebody that like requires a ton of story, then you might be frustrated by it. But it is one that has distinct characters that have a lot of dialogue. And we get to know these characters quite well through all of this dialogue. And so by the time they all kind of figure out who they're in love with, then we're rooting for them, even though they're kind of unlikable. Even though they're kind of unlikable, preppy, annoying, kind of characters in a way. But he manages to give just enough humanity that we're, invested in what's going on. And I think most of us can kind of relate to that pretentious period, when you're in college and you're learning all of this new stuff and you feel so empowered and so excited. And so that kind of age range, that time period is just a really exciting time, but it can also be kind of pretentious. And I think Whit Stillman captures that so well here. And it's definitely a nice tribute to Jane Austen and the power of her words and her stories, even today or in 1990. So if you've seen Metropolitan, let me know what you think. We did an episode of the Cruise Hearing Project on Metropolitan, so you should check that out if you want to hear more of my analysis of Metropolitan. It's a really fun movie. And if you like Whit Stillman, if you like this sort of brand of banter, you should check out Love and Friendship. I have a review of it on this channel. And that's really another fun take on Jane Austen. I don't know why they called it Love and Friendship, because it's really about Lady Susan, her other small novel. But it's great. I love it. And so I have a review of that from way back, like 2016 or something. So yeah, check it out and check out all of my Jane Austen month reviews. I've covered everything that I've covered tons of stuff over at Hallmarkies podcast, including rankings of Sense, Sensibility, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, and Emma. And we've broken down the new movies that they just did. I have reviews of over 30 films. We just got tons. I have reviews of tons of Jane Austen, because I've done this Jane Austen month many years now. So definitely please take a look at that playlist, and please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of Metropolitan and what you think of Mansfield Park. And please check out the Patreon. That's the biggest way you can help me. I would really appreciate it. And the merch store. We have some Jane Austen inspired merch in the merch store. And thanks again. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.